Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday Spot on the Pagan Perspective. This week we're talking about morals and ethics, or ethics and morality. And we have a plethora of questions that come from Yucca, Sunshine, Amanda, and another one from Yucca. Okay, so I'm going to read through the questions and answer as I go because, well, that makes the most sense. The topics in their entirety will be in the bottom bar, and a little thing about Amanda's question, it has to do with the Buddhist scene, what was going on then, and this was suggested as a topic in late 2018, around September, October-ish. I don't necessarily know what was going on there, so I'm only going to take the question as it stands, and excuse the hair because it's just doing something, and I didn't want to fix it all up today. Kind of had a lazy day around the house. So, let's go ahead and start getting into the topics. I have my phone here, whoops, which isn't going to cooperate. Okay, there we go. So, Yucca, we're going to go with Yucca's first. Do you believe in good and evil or a form of universal morality? I personally do. I think that there are entities out there that are for our good, and there are entities out there that are not necessarily having our best interests at heart, that have ulterior motives and whatnot. That may stem purely from a Christian background, but it's still something that's very much in my practice today, that you want to kind of watch out for what spirits that you work with, because they may not always be helpful for you, or they may be helpful in that situation, but what's the trade-off? So that's something that is prevalent in my practice, and that's something that I think about whenever I set out in my practice. As far as a universal morality, if I'm going to speak on what I think is good and evil, as far as me personally and what I do and how my ethics and morality works, is basically the golden rule that you find in multiple religions of, if it's, you do unto others as you want them to do unto you, the golden rule. Doing things for other people or to other people, or not doing things to or for other people because you wouldn't want them done to or for you. So there's also reasoning behind it, whether or not, say, let's give an example. If I were to not do something for a child, let's just give an example. If I was not going to, spoon feed this child anymore because they are more than capable of picking up a spoon and feeding themselves, why would I do that? Because it stunts their growth, as far as their development and whatnot. Why would I want to do that? Yes, I could, and yes, I would be kind to that child. However, I would actually be doing more harm to the child because they don't end up learning and growing as they need to in life. So that is that's just a little reasoning that I give for doing or not doing something for somebody. Now, I wouldn't hurt a child because that's not what I would want done to me, and I am hopefully a good person overall. So I don't want to do something like that because that is not kind. That's not something I want done to me. I would help a person off the street because if I were on the street, I'd want somebody to help me. And are you just playing around here? We have a little visitor. This is Jelly, and she's just playing around. She's just I usually don't have my office door open during any other time of the day other than recording or being in this room. So whenever this door is open, she gets to run around and play in here, which is something that she doesn't get to see a lot of. So yeah, if you hear some noise in the background, it's probably her. So anyway, the golden rule philosophy is something that I go by. It's mentioned in multiple religions, multiple cultures. Every culture or religion has something of that type of rule for morality. So we can just take a needed drink here. Okay. So Sunshine says, I'd love to see a video on pagan ethics. As far as paganism, paganism to me, whenever we're talking about ethics and morality and everything, it kind of goes back to borrowing from multiple religions and kind of crafting your own way of doing things. And I'll get more into that here in a moment whenever I discuss Yucca's question and Amanda's question. So let's go ahead into those ones. Given what's happening in the Buddhist scene at the moment, again, no clue what was happening at that time. It was about September or October of 2018. Not something I've heard about. I really don't spend much time in the news, so sorry I can't speak on that. Opinions about sexual relationships in groups and or between teachers and students. I think that actually hurts the teacher-student dynamic, so I would say not a good thing. In some cases, also illegal. Now, in cases where it's not illegal, just frowned upon is like in college or higher education, whenever you have a student that is of consenting age and an adult that can consent to acts of a sexual nature. Yeah, I can't speak today. Great day to make a video, Rich. So, I think that's totally okay if they are consenting adults. Fine, great, whatever. As far as the student-teacher dynamic, I think it gains very murky water because the student feels favored, or feels like there should be a favoritism towards the teacher or with the teacher, and sometimes the teacher's feelings get misconstrued toward the student, so the student may not do as well and get a good grade, or the student gets a poor grade and thinks that they should have done better, and then starts on a smear campaign and whatnot towards the teacher. So really murky water, something I would not suggest if you are in a professional setting where you need to have those clear lines of delineation between subordinate and management, or supervisor and subordinate. You know, I think those are the types of lines that need to be drawn hard and true of this will not happen between us because it can interfere with what we are doing either as our job as a collective or as a student and teacher with the grading system and the way of perceiving each other. So I think that is not a good idea. As for in groups, if this is a religious group such as a coven, I don't think that there's necessarily a problem with it as long as if it doesn't get in the way of your spiritual practice. I think that needs to be an underlying delineation whenever you're talking about if you are in circle together, that you don't let any qualms about any mundane feud that you may be having, that you are there for that purpose. So I think there needs to be hard lines drawn whenever you're casting circle and when you're being in that space to know why you're in there and be in that space as a being that is doing this religious work of sorts. So I think that's very important to have, is those hard and true lines that you keep things kind of pigeonholed as being, this is what we are doing here, and this is how far this is going to go, and this is the mundane, and this is how far I can allow that to go as well. So, continuing on with Amanda's, is ethics in a hypothetical situation. Is it okay to ever magically harm or bind or infringe another's right if that person is harming others or themselves? And this goes into Yucca's question, who asks, if you practice spell work, do you believe it's okay to cast a spell on or about someone else without their knowledge? This is something that you will get drastically different views depending on who you ask in the pagan community. I used to say that there is no situation whatsoever where I would consider doing a spell on somebody without their knowledge, without them consenting to it and whatnot. But have I done it? Yes. And there are clear, concise reasons why I've done it. In the situations where I have done that, it is because that person was putting others that I know and love in a harmful situation, putting them in a life-threatening situation in a couple of the cases. So yeah, not exactly something that I take lightly if I can do spell work to prevent any of that. So do I think it is okay to cast a spell on somebody else without their knowledge or without their consent? Yes, given certain situations. Is it something that I do willy-nilly? No, absolutely not. Is it ever okay to magically harm or bind or infringe on others' rights for harming themselves or others? Yes. If you know that there is somebody that is suicidal and you're doing everything that is absolutely possible for you to do in that situation to be of help to them to not commit suicide, and your last resort is, okay, I can do some spell work that will actually help this person get through these times, and that actually helps them, fantastic. You did a great job. You saved somebody's life. If you sit around and you don't do spell work because you are morally opposed to doing spell work on somebody that is suicidal, then they actually commit suicide. Did you actually put all your effort forth to actually help them if you've done everything else? So did you really do everything that you could? And if you didn't do everything that you could, would you be living with the guilt that, I could have done a spell to help them? Is that something that you're willing to live with? If that is a hard and true line for you, then I would say, okay, then in your morality, in your space of thinking, then, you shouldn't have done that. And that would have gone against your morality. But if you are thinking that, hey, I would feel terrible if this person committed suicide and I did nothing to help them, or I did everything else to help them, but I did not do spell work which could have helped them, then would you carry that guilt along with you the rest of your life? So that's as far as harming somebody harming themselves. If somebody is out to harm others, a whole different thing. I have no problem casting a spell to make sure that others don't get hurt. I've spoken on this one before, and this is the one I was referring to earlier, where lives were in danger. My friends' lives were in danger. And I didn't want anything to happen to them. This guy was making all sorts of threats. He was coming after my friend's mother, and it was my friend's former stepfather. He was being violent towards them. He was being violent towards my friend and her grandmother, who she had lived with at the time, and I wasn't having any of that. I couldn't be there to physically protect them, and I couldn't be there to put in a police complaint or anything like that. I couldn't be there for any of that because I was in Kansas at the time. However, the one thing that I could do was be there to listen, which I did, and be there to do my working as I needed to do in order to either have him put away, have him put to death, or something of that sort. Did I want him to die? Not necessarily. That's not something that I would necessarily want to condone. But his life measured against others whenever he was being a cancer in society, would I have had a problem if he got into a car accident after I did my spell? I wouldn't really feel that guilty. He kind of deserved it. And that's hard to say, but this guy was very evil towards these individuals. So I did my spell work, and about a month and a half later, he was put in jail. He was picked up on several charges and put in jail and whatnot. So is it okay to perform magic on somebody that is harming others? Given the situation and given your morality and your moral compass as it is, would you be able to live with it? Me, I'm okay with living with that. My friend is still alive. her mother died of other causes that were not related to this unseemly human being, and her grandmother died of natural causes at a ripe old age. So can I live with that I kept the other two who are now deceased? Can I live with the fact that I kept them safe for several more years before their death? Absolutely. Can I live with the fact that my friend is living safe and being a productive member of society and being a wonderful person in society? Absolutely. Can I live with the fact that he was in jail for several years and still has a felony on his record, which means he can't have the guns and everything that he most desperately wanted? Yes, I can live with that. Now, if he ever came back at my friend again, would I go back after him? Absolutely. That is just the type of friend that I am. Yes, I will do a spell on somebody more than once if they did not learn their lesson. So, yes, that is something that I'm okay with doing, and it did take a lot of time and soul searching and a lot of wording of the spell to make sure that it was done in a justified manner, that everything was done in a certain way. It took a lot of preparation on my part to make sure that every little detail was perfect of it, and it turned out wonderful. So, can I live with that? Absolutely. And would I do it again for somebody else? Would I do it without thinking about it? No. Would I do it for frivolous reasons, like, oh, my ex dumped me and now I have to, make him pay for this? No. However, if my ex were to, I don't know, let's pull out a real life example, take me for a couple $1,000s, would I put a spell on him to have my money returned to me because he still owes me? Would I do that? I would consider it. It depends on the level of necessity. If he took, if he took this candle from me and said, okay, I need this, can I put it in my house for, a couple days? I'll bring it back, and I never saw it again. Would I cast a spell for that? No. That, to me, is frivolous. I can buy another candle. I can get more of the little things. If he took a family heirloom from me and that it ended up like that, would I do a spell to retrieve the heirloom back? Yes, probably. So, I don't have any real family heirlooms, so kind of hard to judge on that. It depends on what the item is, I guess. So, these are things that I would have to constantly think about and consider whether or not it was worth doing the spell, whether it was worth my trouble, my energy, my peace of mind, and whether or not it was justified in the end. So, to me, that's what ethics and morality is, and I hope this video didn't go on too long. We had a lot of ground to cover, and I think we covered it all, and there's Jelly making noise again, and she finally skedaddled. So, anyway, I think that's all I have for this week. I will see you guys next week. Yep. And, I'm kind of liking next week's topic, so stay tuned for that one. And until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye.